Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
Our friend Tom Dyson at the Palm Beach Letter is giving away free copies of a really cool report he put together called How to Protect Yourself from America's New Secret Police. Inside, you'll learn all sorts of simple, everyday tricks you can use to make yourself a little less visible and vulnerable to scammers, hackers, and even the federal government. For instance, inside Tom's report, you'll learn which free internet email service never to use. This company doesn't care if your account gets hacked or not, or things the government must tell you if they request your social security number, and how to spot skimmers lying in wait on ATMs and gas pumps, and much, much more. These tricks and secrets are low-hanging fruit ideas. You don't have to invest time or much money into them. Most are free. But by taking some basic measures, you can make your privacy much harder to invade than your neighbors. Tom's report is available for a limited time to listeners who take a trial subscription to his newsletter. Just visit the Financial Survival Network homepage for more information, or go to www.palmbeachletter2.com. That's www.palmbeachletter2.com. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1230 WBZT. Markets in turmoil. 10-year is up to 288 on August 19th, 2013. Talking to markets, talking to trends. You're talking about Charles Nenner. We've got David Gurwitz on of Charles Nenner Research. Let me cut that. David, how are you?
Hey, Kerry. How you doing? Always a pleasure to talk with you.
You too, of course. So, man, the trends, the market's pretty strange times here.
It's interesting, but people forget. I mean, there was a pretty nice run-up for most of this year in stocks, and all of a sudden it gets this way, which is what Charles predicted. And even though he said today, as you saw in the update, and as I say, I always encourage your listeners to write to charlesnenner.com and get a free trial of the research for a while. But you saw what he wrote today, that the sell signal continues as long as the S&P doesn't close above a certain number, but even though it's a short-term low in a week, less, and then we could see another test of the high. So it's in the process of forming a long-term top, but we're not in the crash mode yet, and we may not be in the crash mode when we get there, but you see the emotional effect of things when people should say, well, I had a good run, and it's going to naturally give some back, but we see things in a much longer perspective, and that's why he did say get out, and hopefully some people did.
Yeah, get out while the getting is good, huh?
Yeah, well, it's never enough. I mean, we were in XLM, SLB, and then later on in the show we'll talk about some of the things we covered yesterday, because I know you listeners enjoyed some of that stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, and, all the while this is going on, interest rates going up, gold and silver look like they're coming back, and oil, energy, has been on a tear other than natural gas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're over $100. We've been over $100 for a while, and it looks like it wants to push higher.
Right, which is what we think, 111.
111.
106 cancels the buy signal short term, but we think we're going to get to 111 on this shot. Now, keep in mind, he called from years ago, called crude from 32 to 147, and then on CNBC, when they were laughing, he said we're going to have something called deflation. And at the time, people forget, at 147, who could think of deflation? And we had deflation, right? And it came all the way down into the 30s, and it's been up to the 100 change, back down, up, down. This is kind of the range it's been. And he thinks we're going to have inflation, but not for a couple of years.
Yeah. Why do you think the inflation's holding off? Because by all accounts, all this money that's been printed, all this stuff that's been going on, and, you know, the only thing that central bankers know how to do is push the print button on the money printing machine, and yet we've seen inflation, but it's very sublime, it's very understated, and yet, you know, it just hasn't been out there.
Right. The answer, as you know, we're friends for a while, is cycles. Like, we all think we can figure out A implies B. Well, it's hot, grain prices should be up, and they're not. Right? They're printing, there should be inflation. Charles, who's quite brilliant, I have to tell you, is smart enough to know that he's not so smart about things, and he said, I cannot say that this implies that. All I could do is look at repeating cycles from the past in order to indicate what's going to happen, and then the news will come along saying Bernanke's doing this or this is doing that, or even, you know, Greenspan with the exuberance thing he said years ago. And so Charles's attitude is all the things we tend to think from the press is unfortunately clogging our minds from clear thinking. And so that's the answer. Cycles say it's not ready. Simon says it's not ready. Cycle says it's not ready. And when it's ready, like gold, when he took everyone in 1900 and the bottom has been pushed out, unless he caught a couple of short-term trades, we're getting ready to go. It's not going to be a huge move up at the beginning, but will we see back to the highs and more so in a couple of years? Yeah. So those who are in and depressed, as you probably know better than I, you're knowledgeable about gold than I am, it's going to go back, but why wouldn't people get out is our question always, especially if we said get out. This is the guy that's called so many tops and bottoms. And the only reason he knows is because of the repeating in the past. He says, I don't know why things are topping and bottoming, why Apple topped at 702 and it was only a bounce at 500, but at 425 was a major number, got up to here now. And he sees Apple going way back up, but not right away. So these are things, it's very hard for people to think past the news, like BlackBerry, you know, we put that out also at 80-something. He didn't know why. He never knows why. But he doesn't know also why deflation is weighted other than cycles. I guess that's the only reason.
Yeah. Well, it's not the gold people that are depressed. It's the silver people that are depressed.
Yeah. That's true. But they'll have their day in the sun again.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's no doubt.
When inflation kicks up, the silver price, no doubt, will go with it, right?
Kerry, let me ask you a question. Gold was up 7 years, up until the 1900 level, more or less?
12, I think. But
12,
yeah.
And then silver also was a similar run?
Yeah, with one down year.
So those people had a great run, and then all of a sudden they're depressed, and they're going to have great runs again.
Yeah, no doubt, because the underlying fundamentals of it combined with the cycles, really. But, you know, we talked, natural gas is one of my favorite markets to follow because it's so irrational. It makes no sense. And unless you're on the floor or you're out there in the field digging for this stuff, you have no idea what it's going to do. And even then, you don't know.
Let me tell you, I think I mentioned on the show, and when's your break so we can plan?
Yeah, we got a few minutes. So
okay, fine. So nat gas, right? Like Charles is Dutch, right? What does he know about nat gas? He says, "What do I know about anything?" So when it was $6 4 years ago, 2.5, 3,
right?
He looks and he goes, "Nat gas going to $1.70," and he writes this thing. And of course, people scratch their head. And
roll their eyes.
What? Gets to $5, get to 4.80. And a bunch of our Canadian bank clients, we have clients all types, and we don't manage money, so we're very honest, brutally with all of them. They go, we're going to make loans to those nat gas producers in Western Canada. It was $4.90, $4.80, because they think it's going $10, right?
Of course, because it is in Europe.
$4.20, $3.70, and then all of a sudden, those bank loans were underwater, just like house loans are underwater sometimes. Bank loans are too. And I remember speaking to one of the banks, and he said, "You had told us not to lend." I said, "Well, that's right." He said, "Well, we're going to force them to sell now to start paying us back," which is what banks do, right?
Yeah, they're always behind the curve.
So nat gas goes 320, 280, 250, and the press wrote it up, and people can even Google it, say nat gas prices plummeting because of forced bank pressure selling. Now, you and I know that had nothing to do with it. Cycles topped, it showed where it was going, and then all the news followed, and all the following. And that's kind of a summary of our whole system, that the news is following the cycles because the news represents an interpretation of the events, not the events themselves.
Exactly.
And psychologically, it's very hard for people to accept this. And I understand that because we have thousands of clients all over the world, and they're used to, you know, not having interviewers like you who listen. There's, you know, the news is 30 seconds. Let me push. Let me go. Or certain states, places will only have you on. Look, Charles and I've been on the media 250 times, so we're kind of used to it. And no, some places go, we'll only have you on if you're negative gold. You should know this. This happened.
I know. I'm
not going to tell you who it is. It wasn't you because you're into honesty, and we don't go on that show anymore because you know,
it's manipulation. It's just manipulation.
It's media manipulation.
Yeah, totally. Cynicism.
And it's so, but that's the problem. I think a lot of people are affected by it.
Oh yeah, no, we've seen that one too many times.
Yeah, so that's kind of why.
That's why I started in this.
Right. That's the reason you got started. You were fed up with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And Charles, you should know. This is a quick aside. What do we got? Another minute or so?
Yeah, a couple minutes.
So Charles got into the business. It's always good to review this. When he was in medical school, and the professor said they put more doctors on call in the hospital during a full moon because that's when more babies are born. And he scratched his head, and he goes, "Yeah, that makes sense. Cause and effect, full moon, more babies." Then, like a week or two later, the professor said people get admitted to insane asylums all around the world at the same time, and we don't know why. But Charles put his hand up. Must be full moon. He goes, "No, Mr. Nenner." He wasn't doctor yet, and he certainly wasn't Charles Nenner of the research. It's not during a full moon. We don't know why in Buenos Aires and in Moscow and in Helsinki and in San Francisco they get admitted at the same time. They came to New York, and he was watching a TV show. And he didn't know anything about markets, and he saw Neil Cavuto 30 years ago saying IBM went up because of this, and Charles didn't know. He goes, "How do you know?" And sure enough, he went down to the library and found these patterns of top-to-tops every 2 weeks, every 7 weeks, every 20 weeks of IBM. Did it by hand, and sure enough, it was topping that week. He was in New York. And he said, "Yeah, it's a top," and it was a major top. And he said, "That's the reason to top, not because of the news you said," and that's what got him going.
That was the same guy, the same thing with the guy from RCA. They were having problems transmitting. They couldn't figure out why, and he found the sunspot cycle, and that started that whole thing off with radio transmissions and why they couldn't do that. And that natural gas one, though, that's the one that always fascinates me more so than crude, because there's so many other things going on with natural gas, and you would think natural gas has, a million cubic feet, has the same 1/6 the BTUs of a barrel of gas, a barrel of crude. It should therefore trade for 1/6 the value, right? No way. It doesn't anywhere in the world, and that's what fascinates me about it, because on the math it should trade one way, but it never does. And that's what I love about natural gas, because were we in a perfectly rational world, it would be trading that way, and yet it bears no relation to its BTU value vis-a-vis crude. And that's why I love to read and watch Charles's reports. On that note, we'll be up next. We're going to talk about some specific markets, where they're heading, where Charles is saying they're going to head, on the Financial Survival Network with David Gurwitz, 1230 WBZT. Hi, it's Kerry Lutz. I recently decided to move my retirement account into physical precious metals to hedge against the coming times. If you want to move an existing retirement account into physical precious metals that you can hold in your hand, tax-free, there's no company that can do it more quickly and efficiently than Regal Assets. It took them just 24 hours to open my new IRA account, and all I had to do was fill out one simple form. The best part is that Regal Assets does all the work for you. They cover the setup and administrative costs for 2013. If you're interested in making the same move I did, call 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620. That's 855-678-6620, or visit them at regalassets.com. You'll be glad you did, and tell them Kerry sent you. And we are back with David Gurwitz on the Financial Survival Network, 1230 WBZT. So, David, we're talking about S&P, NASDAQ. Sell signals are continuing. It isn't smart to go against those sell signals, is it?
Well, sell signal doesn't mean sell short. Again, your listeners should write in and get, sample the work, and they'll see, right, sell. Everything's either on a sell signal or a buy signal. It doesn't mean buy signal go long or sell signal go short. It means don't be the opposite. Mm-hmm. So let me rattle off yesterday's work. It'll take a minute.
We got time.
Okay, so Lennar. Let's just give you an idea of we
home
cover
builder.
Stock, we cover bonds, we cover commodities, cover currencies, cover economic indicators. So Lennar is getting close to a cycle low, close above 35, indication of a low. A second chart showing monthly cycles, monthly for chart for Lennar, not for short-term timing, projects tradable low by late September. So if I'm sitting here, wait to buy Lennar, but plan to go in, right? Now, Bank of America, cycles look toppy. The Bank of America only closed below 1340 will be a sell signal.
They just had great earnings.
Well, yes, but cycles are toppy.
Mm-hmm.
So why? Great earnings could also mean it's going to go much higher. But according to cycles, it'll indicate how the earnings will be perceived. Not that they're great, but how they'll be perceived. Whether it looks like it's going to go higher, or maybe at the top is here, and it's going to head down now. That's why. Here he shows cycles only give you direction, and the level also gives you, a whole nother aspect to this that most people don't have. Let's go Rio Tinto. We're looking for a low for Rio Tinto in October because that's the time frame projected low for something we haven't discussed, currency, the Aussie dollar. We're looking to go long the Aussie dollar. BTX is our long-term monthly chart, shows a top now, and another one next year, but again, we're not sure. We think one's more important, followed by a bounce next year. People should see this when we send it. Home Depot. Cycles look toppy, however, closed below 75. Short-term sell signal. Long-term, however, stock can reach 100. And now, interesting, you start saying, Home Depot's long-term up, Lennar's long-term up. Next year, he's been saying the economy will be strong in the beginning. And you start putting the pieces together. Schlumberger, close to a cycle low, close above 84 would be a new buy signal. We just bought it and got out. Newmont's on a buy signal. You know about Newmont, but cycles top again by year-end. Short-term cycle topping, close below 32. Sell signal, J.P. Morgan, long-term, looks positive. SanDisk, Ford is close to a major cycle low, hold up into 2014. IBM, which is interesting, long as it can hold 177, nothing serious projected. Cycles are not supporting for a long time. BHP, we've been negative for a year. Now cycles are bottoming in November. We started the show with rates. The 10-year Dutch bonds, rates can go up into October for 10-year Dutch bonds. Remember, Charles is Dutch.
Right.
He covers that. The euro continues on a buy signal, but slowly cycles are topping. A lot of people have been wanting to short the euro for years, and he keeps saying no. The Aussie's on a buy signal, probably too early for a big up move. We think it'll come, so we're focusing long-term. The Nikkei with short-term cycles down into late this year. Important highs projected only by later next year. Goldman Sachs, for a moment, it's down. Corn, which is the fourth category, fifth actually, soft commodities. We might be interested to buy corn by mid-September. That's just a typical Sunday. Last week we did a bunch of other stuff, economic indicators, unemployment deficit, and it all follows this one algorithm.
Right.
Which is kind of fascinating to me. When I met him, when he was doing this at Goldman Sachs as an independent, I said, we should really get this out to the world, and thank God we're able to do it. You know,
Yeah,
that's kind of a big picture, so people could sit and plan what he sees.
too valuable to just leave in Goldman Sachs' hands.
You know.
Yeah, you know what they're going to do with it.
No, there's not smart people down there.
Yeah, that's not my point, but you know
Yeah,
what
no,
I'm
I
saying.
understand. Yeah. I understand. You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that kind of covers some other markets you and I were talking about before the show. So you want to focus on some other things too?
Yeah, let's go to today's missive, and let's look at our sector, which he quote refers to gold and silver, and what he had to say for gold today, and then take it to the energy.
Fine. Let me read it. Hold on. Let me get there.
Sure. Take your time.
There I go. I mean, I edited, but it's funny. He writes it, and he sends it to me in Dutch English, and then I edit it, write it in Bronx English. So somehow we get there.
Hey, whatever it takes, man.
It works.
I find it, for me in New Jersey English, it's very readable.
Let me ask you a question. When you get it, do you read it right away, or you put it aside?
No, I read it. I'm always at Starbucks when I get it. Okay, and I have my iPhone, and I usually with my guys, and I said, I got Nenner's report here. You guys interested? And it depends who's there. Usually, if my buddy Lewis is there, he's curious, so I'll tell him. Say, here's the latest, and they'll think about it.
It was funny when I first met Charles. You and I talked about this at the beginning about basketball in Red Auerbach. I was trained by Red Auerbach, so I'm a bit of a talent scout. And when I met Charles, I said to him, because I had season tickets when Larry Bird was a rookie, like I told you, when I was in law school a few years back, and I went to Charles. And I said to him, you remind me of Larry Bird. And he goes, who's that? Because he's Dutch. He didn't really know who he was. Right. I laughed and said, I got a pure one over here. And the guy's obviously world class, like Larry Bird.
Oh, yeah.
Shane. So anyway, let me tell you what we wrote today. We're still long gold from 1321 and silver from 2250. Gold closed above 1368, which is a positive. He writes his thoughts. He's a scientist looking at a bunch of X-rays, in effect. After the buy signal for gold stocks, they're up 10%. XAU, Newmont, and I think Barrick. However, with the short-term cycle topping, we want to take profit. Gold and silver cycles continue up to the end of August, and only close below 1326 for gold. Below 2260 for silver will cancel the buy signal, take profit later this week. And that's it. Next.
Okay.
ADD special. We believe if you read this and take more than 4 minutes, we did something wrong.
Yeah, that's what I like. It's to the point, no fluff, no nothing. And the crude. I always look at crude and the sector. So crude says continues to struggle up to 111. Right. So that's kind of like. So I realized that I figure I better fill up my tank today. I don't think that happens. That transfer so fast. They're good at saying, "Well, crude's up, so the gas price." But when crude goes down, the gas prices don't come down. I wonder why. Yeah, funny how that works. Yeah. And that gas, the buy signal continues long as no close below 333. Short-term cycles up, long-term's down for a year. Yeah. So that's that's a short trade. I would do it through Antenna, which is a. But again, as you correctly say, this is not an easy trade, and in the trade, nat gas is known as the widowmaker. You can't make any money on nat gas with the short up and the long down. You just can't do it as an individual. As a pro, a pro, you can make money. As an individual, I don't see how you can do it. So just stay away. Yeah. That's it. I mean, it's hard enough when everything is looking good. Like last winter. That was like you couldn't lose money in nat gas. But this one, unless we have a really bad winter in the Northeast, you can't make money in it. It's the only way you make money I find in nat gas on the long side is when they have a bad winter in the Northeast, and it's hard to pull that. It's hard to know that up front, but when you see a bad snowstorm in early November in the Northeast, then you kind of have a good indication. But again, you got to kind of have to be able to predict the weather to make money in natural gas, which is, like you say, why they call it the widowmaker. And then you wind up, it's bad news. So and then we see these interest rates, boy, and if you're levered on adjustable rate debt, you got to be nervous right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, Charles, look, he's been saying use this bounce or whatever to get out of long bonds, but what's going to be, like, take all the money in the world right now, institutional, individual, what percent is long stocks, what percent is long bonds, what percent is long commodities, what percent long currency, mostly long, right?
Yeah.
So how are you going to deal with a situation that's 7 years in theory, more than theory, what Charles thinks down for stocks, 30 years down for bonds, right? Let's stop right there. Like, what are people going to do, right? And no one's really talking about this because it's just not discussed. Forget about we have great debt. What are people going to do when pensions are going to start really having tremendous pain, and all of a sudden the companies have to deal with that whole situation? And, balance sheets have been tremendously improved, obviously, the last 4 years. So we've got some cushion, and there's going to be, as he wrote yesterday, we talked about before, there's going to be some big, strong up moves. It's not like the world's falling apart. It's just that it's going to be a lot of dislocation at the individual level and some of at the institutional level, that institutions can't do stuff. And once the first bond auction might fail, or once some war, which we see war cycles bottoming, obviously you see, I'm not even talking what's going on in the Mideast. I mean, according to Charles, the war cycles indicate much greater magnitude of fighting beyond these smaller things. I mean, here, Syria, 100,000 people died. That's not even in the data that he has. It's too small. So again, no one likes to talk about it, but that could make crude go up, and he does see a higher crude number. He doesn't want to publish it so much, but he does see it as a possibility, which would obviously indicate, war. And all the other stuff could really be, gold would go up then probably, and silver probably, and food prices we want to go long. Like I said, he's thinking about corn in September, and he said get out of Mosaic, before. Like, all this stuff, we really encourage people to do everything, because based on, in effect, playing the system across everything, the vast majority of the calls are correct. So they would be a nice way to do things. But, that's my sales pitch.
Yeah. All right. So just give us your site, how we contact you and get connected.
It's Charles Nenner's. It's CharlesNenner.com. And they should write in saying they heard me talk to you on the show, and they get a free month or so to get 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the morning update, and then the Sunday charts. And there's a video on the site of me speaking at Bloomberg a few years ago, explaining the whole system. It takes an hour, but I challenge anyone to get through more than 20 minutes without falling asleep. People have said they've done it. I tried to be funny, it doesn't always work. It was an interesting crowd when I gave it. It was mostly technical analysts, so they're not a laughing crowd,
Hey, just one thing here. I got a kind of complaining email about you from somebody who said, yeah, they said to get out of gold at 1900, but they weren't clear enough. Now, let me say something. I've been following you. We've been talking for a year and a half. Every call you have made, if it couldn't be any clearer, every one that I've read, than what you've said here. Okay? Now, I'll say that your natural gas calls last winter, maybe a little bit back and forth.
Right.
But because I would say the market was a bit uncertain in the winter. But every call you made could not have been clearer So I just want to bring that to your attention, that that a little complaint as far as when you said to get out at 1900 in gold. I wasn't reading it then. I can't comment, but that's just one listener's view.
Okay.
Yeah, but hey.
I think we did, but I remember writing it. I remember people had been long for a long time, so I was asking if 7 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
I
think it was 10 years at that point, but
and
yeah.
He just said, I don't know why, get out for now. And I guess he feels bad he didn't go short, but,
I just wanted to bring it because when it comes to market calls, I'm lousy at it. You guys are pretty darn good at it, and you just have to go back and look at, I think what I'd like you to do is come up with that letter where you made the call, send it to me, and let me publish it, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, if I could, I got to find it.
I would appreciate it if you could come up with it. I'd love to put it up there, okay?
Okay.
All right. Hey, till next time.
Great talking to you.
Hey, you too. FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.